Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics. So, is it my imagination or are the MAGA conspiracy theories just getting weirder? After a rally fronted by JD Vance and, sort of as a sideline, Erika Kirk, social media lit up with conspiracy theories about Vance and Kirk getting it on the basis of a hug. In fact, what should have been talked about was Erika squirting fake tears into her eyes as she took to the stage. But why are these conspiracy theories swirling around Erika Kirk? And is she going to end up as a sort of flashpoint for some major infighting within the American far-right movement? But first, for daily news and politics, please click the subscribe button to stay notified. So JD Vance gives Erika Kirk a hug as she finishes parroting the line she was given for the rally. Now, fairly normal hug, nothing particularly untoward. There was maybe one little feature to it, which I'll come to later. But people are suddenly making a massive deal of it. Why? Well, JD Vance has a wife problem in the eyes of many MAGA. See, Vance openly says he was brought up in a loosely Christian household, but that he himself was an atheist, right? He has since converted to Christianity, specifically Catholicism, but that's quite recent, relatively speaking. So recent that he hasn't actually gotten around to reading the teachings of Jesus yet, because holy cow, his actual behaviour is literally the opposite of the scriptures. People finding religion in adulthood's not that noteworthy, but Vance just so happened to become a Christian at the same time as he saw which way the wind was blowing and decided to back Donald Trump. Remember that when Trump was initially running a decade ago, Vance was very critical of the orange one. So basically, the current vice president didn't have a divine epiphany so much as a political one. If he was going to make it as a conservative once the cult of Trump was in town, he was going to have to fit into the cookie cutter. Either that, or it's a massive coincidence that he found God at the same time as he needed to for his political ambitions. But his wife is inconvenient. She's not white, but she's also Hindu. What's more, she's got no intention of publicly renouncing her true faith for the cookie cutter for public appearances. Appearances that are always going to be a bit out of kilter with this ethno-fascist fake Christian movement anyway, because of the non-white thing. I mean, what would Vance do if she did pretend to convert like him? Say that next she needs to get vitiligo like Michael Jackson? So for a certain type of observer, they see Vance playing the game. They see his wife not getting on board with the programme. Then they see a young widow who has enthusiastically played the part since her husband's murder, doing exactly as she's told, or at least exactly what's expected of her. Oh, what a good little wifey she'd make for an ambitious MAGA Republican. And so the internet did its thing. But there are also others who seem to view Erika Kirk as a threat, and conspiracy theories are being developed specifically to counter this threat. In reality, she's just a new face within the hierarchy, and some people don't like the way it might affect their position within that hierarchy. I mean, let's take a look at the MAGA storm surrounding Kirk now, thrust into the limelight literally a matter of weeks ago. The first piece of the puzzle, I suppose, is just how fast it all happened. See, Charlie Kirk was assassinated on September the 10th. By September the 18th, just like a week later, Turning Point USA, which is the group that Charlie Kirk ran, announced that Erika Kirk would be his successor, taking over as both CEO and chair of the board. Now, to people looking at this with a critical eye, and remember, these are people who see conspiracies everywhere, the timeline feels a little bit rushed, a little bit pre-planned. I mean, think about it. You've got this multi-million-dollar organisation. Its founder is murdered. I mean, normally they'd be in a state of chaos. Leadership transitions like that, which you're not expecting, would take weeks, wouldn't they, if not months? Board meetings after board meetings, strategic discussions, careful vetting process. But the decision was announced with really quite stunning speed. The organisation explained that Charlie himself had said he'd want his wife to lead in the event of his death. So supporters say, well, that's a fairly clear logical reason for the quick appointment. It was simply carrying out the wishes of the founder of the group. Not sure there's any proof he actually had such wishes there. And for those who believe the plant theory, the explanation is just too neat. They're wondering if, did a healthy 31-year-old really have a formal succession plan, naming his wife, a former pageant winner with a background in fashion podcasting? Did he really say that's the person to run this massive political machine? They're sort of asking, was this plan really Charlie's wish, or was it a script ready to go the moment tragedy struck? To skeptics, the speed doesn't suggest a movement grieving its fallen leader. It suggests a corporation executing a contingency plan. In the weeks after Charlie Kirk's death, Erika's public persona started to take shape. And it's this carefully crafted image that forms the second pillar of the plant theory. She wasn't just presented as a widow in mourning, with fake tears included. She was the resilient, eloquent and chosen successor to a conservative martyr. Her first big campus appearance has just taken place 7 weeks after the assassination at the University of Mississippi. So she takes to the stage in front of what's reported to be about 10,000 people. She's wearing a T-shirt with the word freedom on it, a deliberate nod to her late husband, who wore similar things. Her voice, thick with emotion, of course, she told the crowd that their being there was a spiritual reclaiming of territory. She urged them to be the courageous generation. Supporters saw a woman channeling her grief into a new purpose, bravely stepping up to carry the torch. But online, critics are seeing something else. They're pointing to what they called a wooden demeanour in many interviews, suggesting she's performing rather than showing genuine emotion. Then, of course, we had the footage of her squirting fake tears into her eyes as she took to the stage. Her memorial service for Charlie Kirk, which featured a pyro-lit stage and was packed with high-profile political figures, was slammed for feeling less like a funeral and more like a political rally, a sympathy stunt designed to galvanise the base. And this is where the plant narrative really gains traction. You know, conspiracy theorists are arguing her appearances are too polished, messaging too perfect. She seamlessly blends personal grief with political rhetoric, turning a private tragedy into a public rallying cry. Is it really the authentic voice of a woman finding strength after a horrific loss? Or is it the work of seasoned political operatives who are coaching a new asset, transforming a widow who's not allowed to grieve into a political symbol meant to inspire loyalty and shut down questions? Remember, Charlie Kirk particularly got through to young people. That's a huge blind spot for these sorts of MAGA Republicans normally. They're appealing to a different demographic. They needed someone to take over who can still speak to those young people. No single moment has fueled this Erika is a plant theory more than what happened at this event, right? So she was there. She gave her little speech, right? Boo-hoo. She was there to introduce the keynote speaker, J.D. Vance, the Vice President. So he comes on stage after she's finished her bit. Erika tells the crowd, no one will ever replace my husband, but I do see some similarities in my husband in Vice President J.D. Vance. Vance walks out, the two have a hug, and then you've got viral photos and videos showing Erika cupping the back of Vance's head, fingers brushing his hair, basically, in a way that a lot of people are saying, well, that's a little bit too intimate. The internet basically broke. The VP, the widow, and the hair touch all starts trending. Social media flooded with speculation. See, for Erika's supporters, the backlash was just a disgusting and unfair reading of an emotional moment. They arguing, look, it's just a supportive gesture between friends connected by a shared cause and shared loss in a highly charged environment. After all, Vance and Kirk were friends. He was there to honour his fallen colleague, right? But for the conspiracy-minded, bit of a smoking gun. The comment comparing Vance to her dead husband, immediately followed by, you know, what some think is a far too intimate looking hug, seen as a major tell. They didn't see it as a gaffe, more of a Freudian slip, revealing a deeper political alignment, maybe a pre-existing relationship. Theories go wild that this was a public anointing of a new power duo in the MAGA movement. Some even speculating about a future political ticket. The hug and the comment transformed Erika from a person of interest into an active player in the political drama, cementing the idea in many people's minds that her role is far more calculated than it seems. And when a public figure's story seems a bit too perfect, internet sleuths start digging, and they've been working overtime on Erika Kirk, fueling the fourth major part of the plant theory, that her background has been scrubbed and that dark money is involved. See, while Erika's public biography is out there, Miss Arizona USA in 2012, a business background, faith-based initiative, theorists are saying, hang on a minute, the details are a little bit sparse here. and suspiciously curated. They're saying, well, for the wife of such a major political figure, her life before Charlie Kirk isn't as documented as we would like. There's a lack of deep verifiable history, which creates a vacuum that conspiracies love to fill. And one of the most explosive, completely unproven by the way, claims is circulated online, alleges that an account linked to Erika received a $350,000 transfer weeks before Charlie Kirk's assassination. The theory goes on to claim that the company behind the transfer then vanished days after the shooting. To add another layer, these same rumours insist a video exists of Erika meeting with two unidentified people less than 48 hours after the incident. Now, just to be really clear here, zero evidence to back these claims up. You know, mainstream news outlets have said there's no proof of this or of the transaction or of the meeting. Almost certainly fabricated either by people who see Erika as a threat or, you know, just for clicks. Because something like this is great for those trying to cultivate a gullible audience. Like, well, you've got to prove it didn't happen then. How do you prove that something didn't happen when it didn't happen, right? How do you prove an absence of something? And in the world of online conspiracies, a lack of evidence isn't a problem. In fact, a lack of evidence is actually better. It invites people to push back. And who are the people pushing back? Well, it's the serious journalists. So that's the mainstream media then, isn't it? It's serious politicians. Well, that's the mainstream politicians. So then you get to say, their denials prove we're onto something. So where does that leave us? Well, it's obvious that Erika Kirk is not acting entirely out of grief. That's not to say she isn't grieving. Right? This isn't really Erika Kirk's fault necessarily. This is people behind her who've pushed her and said, you ain't got time to mourn, love. We need you, right? So she's been used by the MAGA movement, but it is obvious that her public performances are clearly arranged and coached by others. It's obvious. So there's a sense in which if you want to create a conspiracy theory around Erika Kirk, you've got plenty to hang it off. You know, this fake image of a grieving widow, complete with fake tears being squirted into her eyes before she goes on stage. That is a conspiracy of sorts, but it's really more of a marketing gimmick. But MAGA is a movement built on seeing conspiracies everywhere, and they've got to be really deep, right? The roots go deep. And they see menace in every shadow. So the Erika Kirk presented to the world since her husband's murder is clearly fabricated. So then people want to look behind the fabrication, but they can't really see it, so they just make it up. So it's really easy for conspiracy theory authors to really push at that and extrapolate into all sorts of weird and wonderful conclusions. But let me know what you think in the comments below. For more content, you could subscribe to the channel or even join for access to streams and behind the scenes updates. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.